When you're 17, everything is a game, right? So for me, it's like, oh my God, I'm on the front cover of the newspaper. The next day, oh, that's very funny. Let's take a photo of it and ask for the. So I still have it framed at home, one of those covers. The police commissioner, he was a very nice man, and he realized that, I'm just a kid, and I'm not a criminal, and that told me, Pierre, we know that you're still organizing the tournament. It's not good that you do that, because if we come again, we can arrest you. We can actually put you in jail for this. And so that's how I started my career, basically.
Welcome to another episode of the Unbrandme podcast. As we say at Unbrandme and at Brandwagon, better people make better brands, and better brands make a better world. I first got to know Pierre because he was one of our clients when they were setting up iGaming Next. But actually, I started to get intrigued about Pierre when he crushed an amazing time at an ultra marathon in the Gozo 50K race. So that's when you actually really properly started coming on my radar. So for those few people who don't know who Pierre Lindh is the co-founder and managing director of Next.io. A very, very interesting person. Pierre, we're 1 month in from Next Valletta. Yeah?
Yes.
So I remember a month ago, the MCC was like heaving with excited people. There was a lot of great energy. I was there. I didn't leave the place for one bit. I really enjoyed every second of it. Huge success. How does it feel?
Yeah, it's first and foremost, Peter, thanks for having me here. And I felt like we are going full circle in a way. I remember coming into you guys' offices and you talking about how to formulate this brand. That was just an idea at that point. And you guys did such an excellent job in putting all of that together and putting all the culture into the brand that now became what it is today. So first and foremost, thank you, for the work that you guys did to start us up in our journey. And that culminated into Next Valletta that's happened a few weeks ago, as you point out. It's the biggest event that ever been held at the MCC in 50 years. We used every single square inch of that space this year. It's such an incredible feeling. In the world of events, it's a very nerve-wracking experience because you cannot build this vision in your head, how an event is going to look like and feel like, how people are going to interact with the event. You build all these like mental models and you try to picture yourself walking around as a delegate and as different delegates. Maybe you are a first timer at an iGaming event. How are you going to move around at this event? Maybe you've been at 100 events in this particular industry, and how are you going to get the most out of an event from that perspective? So you build all these mental models in your mind. We conduct a marketing campaign. We have targets. We have a vision how we want things to come together. But really and truly, we have no idea what's going to happen until the doors open. And our entire company future is riding on these 2 days every year. Right. So it's a nerve-wracking experience as you get closer to the event. How are things coming together? Are the ticket sales happening the way they should? Because even though we promote the event for 9 months, it's the last 7 days where we sell 70% of all the tickets. So you just have to keep fingers crossed that
must
what
be
you're
so
doing
stressful.
is actually resonating. And so the kind of trials and tribulations with events is if things come together and people are resonating with the event like you have pictured them to, it's just the best feeling in the world, right? Then there is the opposite as well. When you screw an event up, it's just the most terrible feeling in the world, right? Because people are investing in you, they are traveling for you, and putting their valuable time into you. So it's a really sensitive kind of thing when you kind of ask for people's time in that respect. So seeing things coming together in the way that it did this year, and we got just overwhelming positive feedback afterwards around the event. It's just such a rewarding feeling. And in our team, it really and truly, like the events sector is not for the faint of heart. Like you have to be a bit of an extreme person to be able to enjoy these cycles and all the nervousness and anxiety that the events cycles cause. but our team is built up of a bunch of hardcore people, and we really get to enjoy these moments together when it all comes together. So all I can say is it's just the best feeling in the world when things come together for us in that regard.
Yeah, congratulations. And I mean, you talk about the team. It's funny because I've met most of your team before I've met you, and I've seen them working, and they're really a bunch of really focused individuals, extremely passionate about what they're doing, which is obviously, kudos to the leadership team for sure. So well done for that.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the funny thing, because people see me a lot because I do the podcast. I'm kind of the mascot, let's say, if you will, of the event. But then my team is much more hardcore than I am. For example, Gabi, our project manager, she sits until midnight at the office every day for the month leading up to the event. There's just no stopping with her, and then I come and I will come in and like, maybe we should change this or that, and they're like, Pierre, just stay on the outside, okay? Like we don't bother us, be the mascot, just go and say hi to people and just let us do our thing, And I'm like, oh, okay, well, yeah, you guys go ahead. So that's I'm lucky in that regard too, that I have a team that just takes it.
It takes a lot of trust to do that. It takes a lot of self-discipline to stay out of other people's business when these are people that you're hiring and you're employing to do this big event. So I think I should learn a thing or two about that. I'm probably terrible at staying out of my business.
It's my staff that are teaching me more than I'm teaching them. I can tell you, Peter.
Maybe your staff should teach me a few lessons. I'll give them a call.
Yeah, yes.
And again, this has not been your first rodeo. So obviously Next Valletta at 2025 was amazing, but you've organized more than 700 events in the last 11 years, mostly in Malta, but also around the world now in places like Ibiza, Vegas, London, New York, etc. I mean, how do you get to this point?
Well, I think the most extreme thing that we did at some point was we host this yearly event, Showers, which is one of the biggest kind of high-end pool parties in the world at this point. And, now I'm getting into my late 30s, so the party days are somewhat over. Not fully, I guess, but somewhat over. But back in the day when we used to organize this event, we had this idea that we wanted to do this like only for the strongest of the party. So we hosted Showers at Cafe Del Mar. That finished at 2 in the morning. And then 6 in the morning, we went to the airport to fly to Vegas, where we had the after party, and we organized Showers at Dre's, which is one of the biggest nightclubs in the world, in Vegas. And so we went there with the idea that we were going to party all night, fly to Vegas, and then continue the party there. But what ended up happening is like we just landed in Vegas and we just fell asleep and ate a hamburger instead, But yeah, so I think it's we always had these different ideas of like really strange things that we like to pursue. It was always the idea to do a little bit odd things that people hadn't done before. We also hosted together with Air Malta the first kind of party flights, party in the sky with 140 people to Ibiza, and we didn't just want to get people on a plane and play some music in the kind of in-air speakers. We got the actual DJ on the plane. We got the actual speakers in the overhead compartments. We lit the whole plane, and we projected the whole plane when people boarded on the whole thing. So, we always wanted to do things a little bit different, and I think it's just the complete passion of coming up with ideas and see if we can execute them that has always been really exciting to me. Like, you see these like obscure things, and like, okay, can we actually make it happen? And then we are lucky that we have a bunch of people who have the same type of kind of growth mindset or challenge mindset, that we always were able to come up with these strange, obscure ideas and then try our best to make them happen. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question about that. Clearly what's also happening is that the pattern of your life is having an influence on the pattern of the events that you're doing. So you said that, the big party events were happening before, still happening now because there's one event happening soon. But now you're seeking more, deeper thinking. You're looking at more insights. You're more, you're looking at learning stuff and getting some of the best people within the industry to share. So is it about that pattern as well, or are you also following your audience? Which one is it?
If I'll be perfectly honest with you, Peter, I think there might be some form of letter combination behind this drive for doing things at all times, potentially. and I think it's been, for me at least, it's been like that since I was a child. Like I tend to get hyper obsessed with singular things. So I just remember when I was younger, I was playing tennis, and I got obsessed with playing tennis. So I would play against the wall of my house for hours. I would just bounce the ball for hours every day.
Your neighbors must have had fun.
Yeah, they love the constant ringing in the house. But from there, I got obsessed with playing poker. So I would play poker for 24 hours straight, 4 days a week, kind of thing. And I've just moved from obsession to obsession. And for me, it's always been like that when I build a company now, because the company is my obsession since the last few years. And so I put just everything into it, let's say. And I will do that for as long as I feel that I can pursue these big ideas at all times. And the moment where our company stabilizes, let's say, and becomes an iterative company, then that's the moment I'm not the right MD anymore, because I don't thrive under those circumstances. I like when we go into the unknown and we can pursue this, like, no one kind of believes it's possible type of ideas. And maybe some of the ideas are impossible. I don't know really myself, but I want to try. Yeah. And that's what really drives me forward. More than anything, it is that current obsession of mine, like whatever it may be. And so I'm trying, like I said, now the obsession is the company. And I want to be able to keep that obsession for the longest that I can. So the goal is constantly getting bigger, to my team's dismay, if you will, because I will come up with something big, we might achieve it, and they are like, great, we did something great. And I'm like, okay, but we can do like 10 times more, So in a way, it keeps us always pushing forward. But the team can also give me a bit pushback for that type of that type of drive at some times.
Well, with a name like Next, I think you have no choice. No, you're always looking for what's next.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but maybe we need to at some point rebrand to Backwards. I don't know.
No, I hope not. So I mean, you're the classic wartime CEO. So obviously, you're always looking for that next edge, for that next thing. You touched upon, playing poker for 4 days straight, 24 hours a day when you were a kid. And I know there's an interesting story, when you were 17 and you started organizing these poker tournaments. Happy to share that? Just so, for reference for people who maybe don't know that story.
All right, Peter. I'll tell the story in a summarized way. So on the 26th of October, 2006, I organized a poker tournament for around 150 people. I was 17 at the time. For those who are familiar with the Swedish law system, would probably know that it's, let's say, a legal gray area to organize poker for money in Sweden. It's a monopoly in Sweden. Only the state is allowed to organize poker tournaments. But at that time, 2006, this was in the middle of the poker boom. Yeah. Everyone was playing poker. My father was playing poker. All my friends were playing poker. And when I went to school, we would play poker at school break. And I was the one who was in charge of the books, like who owed who money in the school.
Bookie.
I had the actual books in my locker, and the teachers were finding out that we were playing poker for money, and they were like, "You have to stop this." They were trying to figure out who has these books, and I was keeping them secret, So once we graduated school, then I founded this underground poker club, essentially, which became one of the biggest underground poker clubs in Scandinavia. And as I said, 26th of October, I organized a particularly big event, 150 people. And in the middle of the night, the door slams open, and the police walk straight up the door, and they go, release the cards, put down the chips. Who is the organizer here? And then me, 17 years old, put up the hand, like, yeah, I'm the organizer. And they were like, yeah, who else is the organizer? Because they thought that this was some like Hells Angels type situation. They had no idea what to expect the police. There was, I think there were like 25 police that came fully armed with reinforcement from neighboring towns and cities. And they thought that this was a criminal ring.
How many people were you in this place?
So we were 150 people playing poker. But the reality of the situation were that we were just a bunch of kids playing poker. Like, we just had that as our hobby. There was no alcohol there. There was no other gambling. It was just a bunch of kids having a good time there, kind of thing. So without going into too much detail, there's two different laws in Sweden with gambling. There's the lottery law, which is the less severe law, and then you can break the gambling law, which is the more severe one. If you break the lottery law, it's kind of slap on the wrist, you get a fine. If you break the gambling law, you risk prison, basically. And in poker, there are two versions of you can play poker. You can play tournament, and if you organize a tournament, you break the lottery law. Not too bad. If you organize a cash game, where every hand you play is a bet, basically, so you bet multiple times, then you break the gambling law. I organized both that night.
Well done.
And I was aware of the law, and I was also aware that the police was coming. So someone had told us that they were on the way. So we had transported the money out of from the tournament money out of the venue, because we knew if they confiscate this money, it will not be given back. But the cash game money, which was kind of live betting, I had it all in my pocket. And this was like maybe 15,000 euro or something. And on the way out, when I was on the way to questioning, they had set up a barricade where they were searching people. They wanted to see if people had drugs or weapons or anything. Like I said, it was the most innocent group of people you'd ever find. But in any case, I was taken straight to questioning, so I wasn't searched. They just took me straight to questioning. And when I was left over to the police commissary for questioning in Alingsås, this town where the tournament was organized, the most Swedish thing ever happened. I was left by the police car to the police commissary. I was taken into questioning, and they asked me, "Oh, by the way, have you been searched?" And I have 15,000 euro in my pocket. So I said, yeah, I've been searched. Yeah. Okay, cool. Come with us here, and then we for questioning. Yeah, it's like the Swedish trust. Yeah, and so that's how I started my career, basically. So the next day, I was on the front cover of all three Swedish national newspapers, because poker was, the big thing at the time, and this was the first time that a razzia had been conducted against one of these like underground poker clubs. And that caught the eye of the Swedish Poker Federation, which was lobbying to legalize poker at the time. So I became a board member there. I traveled around Sweden to visit other underground poker clubs and kind of build a network. So my first couple of years was very much embedded in the gambling community. I was with gamblers. Like, I was a gambler myself. Yeah. So I really got to see, gambling. To be honest, I saw gambling from the best possible light that you can possibly get.
More of the sporting side rather than the competitive side.
That was like a kindergarten for grown-ups, these places. Like we would sit and play poker without drinking any alcohol. We would play from 7 in the evening to 7 in the morning. And we just talk about everything, talk about life, kind of become friends around the table. Everyone have a great time. You meet all kinds of different personalities, young, old, anything in between. And so I always got to experience gambling from the positive perspective, let's say. We never saw any gambling addiction or people going too far or anything like that. People just had a great time over the activity of gambling as a social activity. So that's how it all started.
Well, it's interesting the way you relate it, and obviously there's such a community feel about that, no? But going back to the arrest, how did that make you feel post the arrest? How did that make you feel? Did that give you more energy to be doing more stuff like this? Did that give you like the feeling where, hey, that slap on the wrist, that should have calmed me down? Did you feel like you were invincible at that point?
I think that is more the thing, because when you're 17, everything is a game. Right, so for me, oh my God, I'm on the front cover of the newspaper. The next day, oh, that's very funny. Let's take a photo of it and ask for the. So I still have it framed at home, one of those covers, and I think I had the next day 200-300 missed calls from journalists, maybe
from different journalists wanting an interview.
Yeah. Everyone wanted to talk, and it was everything's just a game. Like, you're not experienced in life at that point, so it's really hard to be like, I don't even like. It's hard to see the reality of the situation,
to contextualize the situation, the reality of that.
So I just continued organizing the tournaments, and I did that for a couple of years afterwards. Like after a while, the police realized that this is just not what I thought it was. And at one of the questionings, I remember the police commissioner. He was a very nice man, and he realized that I'm just a kid, and I'm not a criminal in that regard. So he told me Pierre, we know that you are still organizing the tournaments. It's not good that you do that, because if we come again, we can arrest you. We can actually put you in jail for this. But just don't make any noise about it, and we're not going to come again. Okay, he told me that. So I said okay. So I organized the tournament for another 2 years or something like that afterwards, and we were never bothered after that. But in hindsight, it was probably not the best decision, right?
Kids,
but
if you're listening, don't do that.
Yeah, because at this stage of our life, we have you build up baggage. You have friends, you have family, you have things you need to adhere to, commitments here and there, and you become a bit more risk averse as you get older, I think. Whereas when you're 17, you just have nothing.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, you just do whatever makes you feel good at that time. So I was just more reactive, I think, at that time. I just did what I felt like doing more than anything.
Yeah. So then that brings you into Malta at some point in time, no? Along the way, 2011, I think you came to Malta for the first time.
Yeah.
And you started working within, obviously, the online gambling industry here. And you worked with Betson, you worked with BetSafe, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
And then what was the point when you decided, okay, guys, we need to start organizing our own events? Because you were helping a number of other people organize their events, right?
Yeah. So gambling, events, and community building is what I've done my entire career. That's the only thing that I know. I know it pretty well, but it's the only thing that I know to do well. And so my work in the Swedish kind of poker community then brought me to Malta, where I got the job as poker VIP and hospitality manager for Betson Group. So I'd organized all the hospitality events for Betson Group, which was like the dream job as a 21-year-old when I came to Malta. So I was working for Betson for 2 years. And after 2 years, me and my friend at that time, Martin Pettersson, we had already started to dabble a little bit in organizing the events here in Malta and to experiment a little bit here and there. And again, that became the hyper-focus at that point. Like, I just got obsessed with the idea of organizing events locally here in Malta. We were out all the time at that time. We were in Patraville and partying all the time, and we were like, oh my God, how cool it would be to actually be the organizer of these things ourselves. So we had no business plan. We had no idea of if this is going to make money or not. It just became complete hyper-focus to the point where I just have to leave my job, and we have to just start doing this, because we had a little bit of a following at that time. And we just had the opportunity to organize these events, and it just made me so excited with the idea to start organizing the events. So it was a very quick decision. All right, let's do this together, Martin. He left his job, I left my job. Okay, let's go.
Wow.
And like I said, we didn't earn any money for the first couple of years. That was not the point. We just loved the idea of being the organizer of these events.
That's really interesting how that happened. And without organizing money, I mean, what were you doing? How were you living? How were you surviving?
We had some savings. We didn't really think about it. Again, still, 22, 23 at that time, it wasn't really that important to thinking about saving or be responsible for finances or whatnot. We were just having fun. We just kind of got by at that time.
Just going to shift the focus slightly out of this. I have a theory that most of the most successful people that I've ever met and most successful people in the world have a number of other interests besides what they do as a business. And throughout the process of me learning more about you to organize this podcast, I found out that you're interested in so many different things. And even though you talk about this hyper-focus, then you do have your discipline, which you go to. So one thing which obviously blew me away, and I was having a real fun time chatting with my 11-year-old son yesterday about this, is that you were a semi-professional K1 boxer, right?
Yeah.
And you've been a martial arts athlete for a while now as well.
Yeah.
And an ultra runner.
Yes.
Give me a bit of that sort of, how does that come to play? And I mean...
Yeah, so I think, Peter, I'm a big believer in first principle thinking, that when you break these type of theories down, what is behind all of that? Rather than why did we go into martial arts or long distance running and these things, what is the cause of this extreme behavior, let's say. And I think I mentioned before the podcast here that I had a really interesting discussion with ChatGPT the other day, because I try to measure my health metrics, and I have a low resting heart rate, and kind of performance metrics look good. But then when I started wearing the Whoop, which is more kind of measuring health in general, not just like how well you are to perform, but just how healthy is the body, my metrics were not that great, you know. And so I was like really interesting to understand that. So I put the metrics into ChatGPT and asked, you know, what is the cause of like, why is it so like unusually low? Because I'm training really hard. Like my body should be like really good. And I had the realization together with ChatGPT that I have a very active and sensitive nervous system, that I'm addicted to dopamine hits. You know, I live in fight or flight constantly. So what makes me feel good is the feeling of achievement. So that's like the dopamine chemical, right? When you have a big goal and you achieve it or you pursue it and you work really, really hard, the body secretes dopamine. And so the first principle is that is how I am built, that I really like to live a dopamine-filled lifestyle. And so that then makes more sense why I would go into more extreme sports or activities, because they just make me feel calm. So when I was doing the most martial arts, for example, it was a really nice way for me to calm down in sparring, for example, or going really hard sessions. When I was competing, we went in training camp for 3 months, and it was, you know, really, really, really hardcore training, and it just really calmed me down. Yeah, it was my calm space, and it's the same in the long distance running when we do the ultra marathons. And you know, when I did the first Xterra around Gozo, it was just a week before our big event that we held in New York for the first time. So we organized this big conference over there, the biggest online gambling conference in North America. And it was the first time we did it, so it is like a lot riding to it. And I really needed to go on that run to just calm down for a day, you know. So that's why I go into these things, because it just makes me feel more in balance, actually.
When I'm doing my ultra running, or when I'm doing any of my endurance sports, I can't even consider myself an ultra runner anymore. I've done one ultra and that's it. Okay, so when I do my sports, mountain biking or open water swimming, it's because I'm so distracted by the amount of things I need to focus on. There's a stone there, there's mud, there's a hill coming up, you know, watch this, watch that I'm then hyper focused on that moment. And so that stops everything else in my life from the chatter that's in my mind. Yeah,
exactly. Like all the issues that you might be thinking about, all the struggles, the worries, the to-do list that you have, it just goes away, right?
Correct. So I'm going to ask you this, and I'm asking probably for therapy over here, out live on the Unbrandme podcast. But is that the right thing to be doing? Shutting up all the noise that's happening outside to just focus on something that really requires this hyper focus? Or is this a delay tactic because anyway we need to deal with the rest of the stuff? How do you see that?
So I think it's a bit of a journey for perhaps us that are a bit on the extreme scale as human beings, right? We are running our businesses, and I you know, you run a very successful business, Peter. You know, your company is known across Malta. You are known across Malta, of course, and you know that puts you in a bucket where like you're also a bit different, you know, than most people. And you know, many like people sometimes come up to me and they're like what they want to like. They like look up to that lifestyle. Let's say like, oh wow, you know, the accomplishment. Because I think in general today, looking at social media, all we are fed with is like how we can achieve more, you know, and a successful life is being successful in business or being like extreme in sports, or like we look up to these extreme personalities. That's how our society is, because it just makes for better content, I suppose. You know, it's just more interesting to listen to and to take in and so on. And that has built a culture now where, you know, everyone is like desperate to become like unique in their own way. I don't think it is necessarily the best way to live because that comes with sacrifice also. So it comes with sacrifice of having less time for friends, less time for family, being less present with the people around you. I'm speaking for me now. And
I was going to ask you, what have you sacrificed to get to this point? So thank you for answering the question.
And you know, so I can sometimes ask people back when we talk about, you know, what a good life is like. Okay, you know, how how good does it make you feel that you have this space for people around you? Because I can sometimes look at that and be a bit envious too, actually. And so I think it's just really important to establish that this type of lifestyle isn't necessarily the right way to live, but I think we are just naturally wired in different ways.
Yeah.
And we need to find, I think, our own way to pursue happiness, because there is many different ways to pursue happiness. Or maybe happiness isn't even the goal. Maybe it's more like to find purpose. So what is your purpose? Is it to be close to your family, making sure your family is thriving, or is it to build something unique and whatnot? But to me, it's not really that one is better than the other, or one is more successful than the other. I think raising a child is probably more difficult than building a successful business, for example. And so shouldn't we look up more to the parents who do it really well, for example? Shouldn't that be something we look up to, instead of people who neurotically build up some company that doesn't really matter? So I think about it from that perspective often, that
I think everybody's reality is different. And I think, as you said, I definitely don't feel that people should just be chasing the extreme just because they want to be able to have better content or to be able to put that stuff out there. And I think anybody who chases the extreme running, the extreme sports, the opportunities to have something to talk about just for that, that's completely wrong. And so I think that I, and probably like you, have fallen into these new exciting things that we do because we love
we are just wired like
things.
that.
Correct.
Yeah, it is good to us. It's not hard to run the Xterra marathon 50k around Gozo when you're wired like that, because to us that is our peace. People are like, oh my god, you're in a ultra marathon, but no, it's not that special. It's not that special.
It does make life look easier though.
Yeah,
when you do these hard things.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, we do it not because it's oh my god, it's such a crazy hard thing to do. We, really and truly, we do it because that's just how we are wired. We just enjoy doing it.
Yeah, I think so.
And like I said, we're not running to win. We're just running to put ourselves in that nice state of calm and peace. And to your question earlier, is that a good way? Is that a good thing to do, or is it like self-medication to some extent? I think you have to be mindful of not letting it become an extreme. And something I learned as well then is when you have this active nervous system and dopamine-filled lifestyle, you also have to be able to switch off at times and not forget that it's important to switch off, because you also don't want to overload your nervous system to the point where you eventually burn out. And something I'm very passionate about is in my work, so I tend to have this obsession mindset. I tend to be very obsessed with things. So I have to be really careful of not overdoing it, because the way I see it in my company, I want to build my company over the next 20 or 30 years. So I need to be able to put myself in a sustainable output that I can keep for those 30 years without burning out. And maybe that's connected also to the fact that we like this ultra distance running, because if you run really fast in an ultra distance marathon, you will eventually burn out. So you have to, especially in the beginning when you're so filled with adrenaline, you always start the race too fast. That's just, every runner starts to run too fast. So to be able to hold back, let the runners pass you because they're all running too fast. That's okay. Keep it calm because later on you're gonna need that energy. And so to learn to conserve energy in this long distance running, or in this context to build your business, is incredibly important. Also, to recognize, am I burning the candle from both ends, or am I in a sustainable workload where I can actually keep this pace over a full career, just you can run a marathon the same pace throughout the race.
I think to me, to that point, I think there's two main concepts. I think one, all the challenges I've done, it's not what you achieve, it's who you become. And I think the places you go in your mind when you go through these extreme events or through these extreme challenges, you find out that you're capable of so much more, and you just kind of tick the box knowing, hey, I've managed it. And the ones that break you, because not every challenge you can actually finish off and you can actually achieve.
And that's good.
You realize, okay, so that's my low, that's my thing, and this is what I need to work on. So I think there's that. I think the chase of happiness, I think for me, it's also understanding, like, happy is he who knows when enough is enough. And I think, if you're always consistently wanting more, I'm not talking about more, you want more for your business. I think that's great, and you should always keep on wanting more, because the minute you stop, that's the moment you die.
Yeah, for sure.
I think for me, it's more about understanding, like, hey, this is what enough money looks like. This is what enough this looks like. This is what enough, going out looks like. And I think understanding and being comfortable with that, irrespective of the way people might judge you or the way people might compare you to others, I think, happy is he who knows, when enough is enough.
I would take it a step further, and I'd say that happiness is completely overrated. I think we in the West are living, our culture is very individualistic. Right? So we are raised with to discover ourselves. That is our culture today, right? It's a very individualistic way to be. And in that culture, our aim, or what we are striving for, is to be happy. But I'm thinking a lot about isn't it more about finding purpose more than happiness? Because if you have a really clear purpose, you might not be as happy. So when I was in my 20s, I was more like mindlessly happy, let's say. But now I feel a lot of purpose with building my company, for example. I feel genuine purpose of like what we want to achieve, how I can use this company to do good and these things. And I'm not as happy as I was in my 20s, but I would much rather prefer to be in the space I am now, for example. And I think we forget that sometimes in our culture. Again, just looking at, we get lost in social media, scrolling. We see these like people that are happy, and we're like, we want to be like them. And we feel like happiness is a new car, or happiness is going on a fantastic trip and whatnot. That we forget that maybe purpose is more important than chasing happiness as such. It just feels like in the context of living with really clear purpose, happiness just becomes a bit irrelevant. Like if you would ask, I'm just imagining like if you go back in time with like, if you live in a tribe where the purpose is the survival of the tribe. I'm just guessing that if you would ask a person in the tribe if they are happy, they would just see it as like something that is not that important, because the important thing is to keep the tribe happy.
I agree with you. I think the modern society has portrayed happiness as the lack of discomfort, the absence of discomfort, the absence 100%. Of pain.
100%.
When in reality, as most of us know, for me, purpose is the pursuit of something that makes you feel alive, and that normally involves a bit of pain.
100%.
Because to achieve the stuff that's gonna, I mean, this is like, for all those parents out there, having kids and raising kids, because having is the easy part, is the raising, which is the hard part.
Having is the fun part.
Correct. The raising part is not pain-free.
That's not so fun.
But it is hugely satisfying. To just even watch your kids, from an angle when they know that when they can't realize that you're watching them, saying, hey, he's a good lad. She's a good daughter. She's going to become a really amazing person. I can't wait to see what she achieves. But also being completely independent of the fact that, a lot of parents think these are my kids. No, you're their parent, as opposed to, that you don't own them, they own you. And I think the ability to consciously switch that, and to get away from the concept of possessions, but rather than, it would be great to know that you've managed to raise an adult. Wouldn't it be great to see the people that have worked for you become amazing people? We have a lot of people.
What a satisfying feeling.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, we have a lot of people who've worked at Brandwagon. Sometimes Brandwagon becomes like, the place which is like kind of the university of creatives and strategists in Malta, which is something that we're extremely proud of.
Yes.
I'm extremely proud of those people. As proud of those people who've stayed, but also the ones who've left and set up their own businesses, even though they're competing with us. But there is that part of me that says like,
you had a positive impact.
You did it. Like, I had maybe this much impact, but you guys, you went there. You made it happen. Kudos to you. To know that I was somewhere, shared a desk with you, worked on a project together with you, like that makes me hugely happy. So I think there is that as well.
I mean, what a incredible place to get to when your empathy stretches to other people and you feel their happiness and accomplishment as your own accomplishment and purpose. What more can you ask for than
sure.
that, right?
And again, it's not about the credit. I think it's more about watching amazing people do amazing stuff.
Yes.
And just like you, I know that my days at Brandwagon can't be forever. I actually do feel at some point I might need to step away and let the next people come up. So let's mirror back that onto Next. You have huge aspirations for Next. You are one of the only people who's been on this show who's actually mentioned the word unicorn, and I actually believe that they have what it takes to make that happen. So tell us about this big dream to take Next to the really the next level.
Yeah, it's funny because sometimes I like to shock people, and I'll say like, yeah, I think Next can become $1 billion company, and they're like, oh my God, $1 billion company, like, yeah, you understand how impossible that is. But then again, you go back to when you break down things for first principles. Because to connect where we are today, where we are around a 40 million euro business today, 40 to 50 million euro business today, to a $1 billion business, which is an unbelievable step between these two. It doesn't sound like there's any connection between them, let's say. But all right, but let's break it down then. Okay, so we are 40 million euro business today. Let's say that our first goal is to become a 100 million euro business. What do we need to do to get to that point? Well, we can achieve that with our existing products today. So we just need to continue growing, and we will become a 100 million euro business. It's not that far-fetched. We need to work hard. It's not going to happen by itself, but there is a clear path. We can see it in the horizon, if you will. So when we get to a 100 million euro business, we will free up more capital. And then we can look at what business models have succeeded to become a 1 billion euro company that are similar to what we are, let's say. So there are a few companies to look at. There's a company called With Intelligence, which is a media company that started from building a media company in one industry, become really successful, and then duplicate that into other industries. So they built this model, and then they just duplicated into other industries to the point where they became a 600 million pound business that was recently sold. Okay, so, well, that's one path. There's another path, which is the Better Collective path, for example, which is to specialize in the industry. So you just attack one industry, in this case, iGaming. There is so much opportunity to pursue. In our case, we are building a really strong kind of industry authority angle in Next. And Better Collective today is a $2 billion media company that are specializing in affiliate marketing. What they don't, and so they are a massive company, right, and publicly traded, known across the world. But what they don't have is they don't have any events, they don't have any video kind of content that they produce. They only produce really SEO optimized text, SEO type content to conduct affiliation. So the way I see it, they are a $2 billion company, we're a 40 million euro company, but we have much better outlook than them in the next 20 years because we are specializing, and we are producing much wider portfolio of services. So all of a sudden now we break it down from first principles, and you can see that you cannot deny that there is a way for us to do it because someone else has done it already. We can get to 100 million business. Other companies have gone from there to create unicorns. So why would we not be able to do it?
So next step is the 100 million.
Yeah, the next step is the 100 million euro business. So again, as I'm telling you, my staff and my team is like, oh my God, there's not going to be much restful moments in the next 120 years, let's say. But I just love to draw up that big vision for us. And I think, for all the, hectic and kind of sometimes stressed environment that we're in, it also drives us all forward to the feeling is like we can do this, Our first employee in our company, Anna, she's been with us for 10 years. She's my right-hand person. She's my COO. And she built her whole knowledge with us today to the point where she's a world-class CEO. She's so good. She's incredible. When we go into, we have some pretty big investors on our cap table, YOLO, Happy Hour, some of the other really, really big 1 billion plus asset under management investors. When we go into these meetings, especially in the beginning, and Anna would report our financials, the investors would come to me afterwards and like, this Anna, like, is she educated? Like where does she get this experience from? And I'm like, no, she just taught it herself. She just learned.
Fantastic.
You know, and
that's another first principle concept, no?
Yeah. So like, you know, she, for example, has bought into the fact that, you know, when she started working with us, she was giving out tickets on the street. She was walking up and down the Strand Walk in Sliema and giving out tickets to our events for free, right? And she comes from Colombia. She moved to Malta to make something out of her life. She has an opportunity to set up her entire life in this company. She has an opportunity to set up her entire family's life in this company as well. And when people buy into your vision, there is an unbelievable energy that comes with that. And so Anna, just like many of our other employees, we have many with similar stories. Most of our employees that are in leading roles have been with us for 10, 8, 7 years. They all started from intern level. They all started from being interns and building up themselves to be just the best at what they do. And they all have bought into this vision that this is the opportunity for us to come together and set our life up. We can do something extraordinary together. They can see it, you know. And again, that brings out that energy from all of us where, as I said earlier, Gabi, our project manager, will work to midnight to just make sure that this event happens in the best possible way. And when we have that type of ethos and atmosphere in the company and culture in the company, to the point also, sometimes we will employ and we will realize very quickly that an employee doesn't share that culture. And, you know, it's a pretty ruthless culture internally in us. If people don't pull their string, they get left out. Like, like we give everyone chances to really do their best at our company. But if people don't pull the rope, our staff will take that person off. Like they will not like that person. They will not fit into our organization. It is all or nothing with us, and that's what you have to buy into.
Yeah, but it comes back to the tribe, no? The tribe who's trying to get you know and chase that purpose.
We take care of each other in our company. It's tough love always. Often, and it's not always that the atmosphere is amazing. Let's say because we are so passionate at what we do, so we have all very, very strong opinions, and we fight it out often, you know, internally. But we, goddamn, are in the same boat, you know, and we are going to make sure that this boat sails to where it's going to be, because we can see that opportunity to do something extraordinary with our lives.
I mean, you might not be a unicorn yet, but, you know, take that analogy. You're definitely a phoenix, no? You rose from the ashes coming out from COVID, so that's great. You shared these amazing mindsets, five lessons you learned from your whole COVID experience. I'm going to talk about them now, but then I'm going to ask you a specific question. One is, you know, COVID taught you to face the brutal truth.
Yes.
It was to be consistent. And I always say that, you know, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't put in the hard work. Maintain your mental well-being. We spoke about that. Thinking from first principle. We just talked about that. And the final one is be a good person.
Yes.
And it's everywhere you go, everywhere you speak, you always continue coming back to this point, you know, that you need to be a good person, and you need to be yourself, and you need to be human. And I'm sure that you're surrounded by a lot of those good people, but you need to keep on attracting more to take it to the next level, to help build that unicorn. How much of the responsibility is on you in terms of building your own personal brand out there? And I say personal brand, the fact is you're being who you are and getting yourself out there, but you've definitely started to post more, to release more content. How important is it for you to raise your influence in the world, in the industry, to be able to continue to attract the best opportunities and the best people?
Yeah, well, let me tell you something I always tell my sales team internally. So we have a principle that says, you know, if you ask yourself, what makes a great salesperson? I think the first thing people think is like, okay, you know, you perfected the pitch and you're really good at like manipulating people into saying yes, and there's like all these principles of like how to turn a no into a yes, and use the right words and the right look and the right facial expressions. But it's really not this the case. It's very, very simple how to be a good salesperson. Because if you think yourself of who would you most want to buy from, if you really think about it, the person you would want to buy from, anything, whatever it is your friend. Yes?
Yeah.
You want to support your friend because you like that person and you trust that person. And in business today, you want to do business with people that you like and that you trust. Not like this 90s ABC, always be closing, Wolf of Wall Street type selling. That is the place for the 90s because that was like not relationship based, and you made a sale, you hang up the phone and you call the next person. You never see the first person ever again, you know, so relationship building was not relevant. But today in the world of business, I cannot stress this enough. I talk about it all the time. The number one lesson for me in my career that has guided me is to make sure to be that person that people can trust. And, you know, you can be nice to people and, you know, treat them well and have a smile on your face and say the right things and be patient with people and so on and so forth. But over time, people will see your actions. So you will build up a reputation and a personal brand, whether you want it or not.
Yeah.
It's inescapable in this day and age. So what we say internally is, you know, if you wanna sell, just be yourself. Unless you're a serial killer, then don't be yourself, okay? But then don't be in our company also. So that's what I mean with like, we want to hire good people, and then just let them be themselves. You show yourself, show who you are to the people. Open up to the people that you are. These are not transactional businesses that we do. Become friends with them. Like be who you are with your accounts and clients, and you will build up a great reputation, and as such you will do really well.
Yeah.
And so in my case, then, for example, I've been trying really, really hard to stay true to that principle of being consistent. I'm very passionate about relationship building. It's just something that I like doing. And I'm really passionate about delivering good quality, going above and beyond kind of a hospitality mindset, since that's what I've done my whole career. It's just something that I like doing, you know. So when we kind of build the company and next and so on, I think it's really important to just humanize the brand. I've done, I don't know, 300 something podcasts at this point. It's very, very difficult if you have your heart in the wrong place to be consistent over such a long period of time and in so many kind of public settings to keep that facade. At some point, people are going to see who you are when you record that amount of content. And so the kind of play for the podcast, let's say, is for the industry to see that we are a company that you can trust. You know, we're gonna fuck up sometimes. That's just part of things. But what matters is how you deal with those fuck ups. So when we fuck up, we see it as an opportunity to show our clients how committed we are. I always say that internally when we have a fuck up. Okay, this is an opportunity. Now you can really strengthen your relationship with this client. Let's make sure to go above and beyond. We don't just say sorry when we fuck up. Oh, we're sorry, we recognize that this was not the best. No, we take responsibility together because we want to make sure that our companies succeed. And if they don't succeed, then we shouldn't succeed either.
Yeah.
So we always see that as opportunities. And that's what I mean about being consistent and then being kind also. It's like when you put those two principles together over a long period of time, you just build up a company that is easy to work with. You can trust that we will deliver. If we don't deliver, we are there as partners together. We take shared responsibility, and we should be people that you want to do business with. We should be your friend.
Yeah, for sure. Amazing. Unfortunately, we're getting close to the end of this podcast. I have two questions which I want to ask you. One is ridiculously hard, and one is ridiculously easy. And I have a guess which song it might be.
Okay.
I'll just tell you which one it was. Okay. So the first question is, Pierre, and I have to read this. This is the question I normally ask at the very beginning, but I knew I could do stuff slightly differently with you. Pierre, if you were to introduce yourself to me without mentioning your occupation, where you're from, where you grew up, what your hobbies and passions are, what your religion is, and what all the superficial markers that we use in our day-to-day lives, give us, how would you describe yourself?
Oh my God. That is an incredibly hard question. And I think I am generally not the person to talk too much about myself. The way I like to get to know people by asking questions and being interested in the other party. So I would probably keep it pretty brief about myself, I would say. But if I were to introduce myself, I'd say I would be a high octane, very passionate person that wants to really understand the people around me the best way I possibly can. I'm very interested in people's unique stories. So that's what I mean is like I rather prefer to ask questions. So I'm a very curious person in that regard, that I'm not scared to go into other people's world and try their things, what make them passionate. Something along those lines, I think.
That's pretty good. I would probably come to that same conclusion as well. All right, final question.
Okay.
The soundtrack of your life. If you had to choose just one song.
Oh my God. Which
song would it be?
Oh, the soundtrack of my life.
The soundtrack to the trailer of your life. Okay, let's make it slightly easier.
It would probably be. We have to brainstorm a bit together here, but it would probably be some like neurotic, really high-paced song that doesn't have that much that had very different stages in the song. I don't know what that could be. Really, to be honest with you,
wow.
I would have to think about that a little bit if I'm honest with you. There isn't anything that comes to mind immediately, I must say. I'd have to get back to you.
You're the first person who's going to decline answering, so I'm going to try and answer it for you. I was sure you were going to choose Dog Days Are Over.
It's very funny. Yeah, of course. Yeah, because it's in the presentation. Yeah, so yeah, good shout. Yeah, so
Florence and the Machine.
Yeah, of course. Florence and the Machine. Yeah, God damn it. Yeah. No, so the funny story behind that is that when we went through COVID. And obviously COVID as an event company was a disaster, just like it was for you guys. Branding companies, that's the first thing they're going to cut, right? Is marketing and stuff like that. In our case, events just became erased. Right?
Yeah, it was illegal to organize an event.
Yeah, it was illegal. So we lost 100% of our business. And it was really tough times for the company at that time. We really had to come together and we really had to do everything we could to possibly try to turn this situation around. And I would have really dark days where during this period where like there was a lot of uncertainty because either we were going to eventually kind of come through this dark time and manage to kind of rebuild our business, or the other scenario was that the business were going to go bankrupt, and me and Martin as co-founders, we were personally going to be liable for tax and VAT debt in the next 10 years. 10 years, the best years of our life, you're never going to get them back. We were going to be living on minimum existence if our company went under. And sometimes that would like get to me, and I would have the days where I just like break down crying. And like how on earth are we going to make this happen? And throughout that time, I would listen to "The Dog Days Are Over" by Florence and the Machine, which was kind of like this song that you go through really hard times, and then like you reach this like point where like the dog days are over, and now you can like celebrate the fact that you went through this hard period. And I would visualize that moment, like, okay, we're gonna, when we make it, I'm gonna listen to that song. And I'm gonna celebrate, and I always had that in my head. Then eventually we got to the point where we managed to close investment from some of the most respected investors of the entire industry as an event company during COVID. And it was one of the best moments of my life when we signed that contract, because it meant we did it. We saved ourselves, and we saved our employees, we saved our staff, And I put on that song on a goddamn maximum volume, and I danced around the flat at that point. And you're absolutely right. It's definitely But I would say that was the track of the moment.
Yeah.
Because the next realization was
the dog days aren't over.
Now we have all this like money from investors and expectations from the investors that we're not just going to like keep the company afloat. Now we need to like 10 double the company. Oh my God, like now we're in the next grades here all of a sudden. And that's also a point in general, that like when you have these big goals in life, and you graduate law school and you become a doctor or something, and you have this vision throughout that time, like I'm gonna become a doctor, I'm gonna have that title, like Dr. Greg or like Dr. Lindh, like, and people are gonna call me Dr. Lindh, and then you reach that point, you're at the top of the world, everyone is celebrating you, and then next week you start working on McDonald's, because now you start the next race, which is like the career.
Yeah.
Now you start your career. You start career at the bottom. Yeah, no one cares that you're a goddamn doctor. You gotta work your way up the ladder.
Yourself. Yeah.
So that's the case here as well. I got to listen to The Dog Days Are Over for a couple of days, and then now we're in the next race. And that's just how life is. It's built up of this series of races that you're in constantly. Like there's never a finish line in this thing.
Yeah, that's true. Pierre, it's been incredible. I really enjoyed our session today together, getting to know you more, and also to see sort of your energy, your vision, and also where you're going to take next. So I'd love to see what's next. Pierre, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Peter. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Congratulations to all the success too as well.
Thank you very much.